Welcome to another episode of Mission Compliance, Unleashing Growth Potential for Defense Contractors. In today's episode, we continue down the road of understanding CMMC. Wow. In today's episode, we continue down the road of understanding CMMC, its regulations, and controls. Up next is IR.L2-3.6.1. Establish an operational incident handling capability for organizational systems that includes preparation, detection, analysis, containment, recovery, and user response activities. We'll break down what this control means, why it matters, and how it impacts your organization's cybersecurity posture. We'll also provide practical insights and strategies for achieving compliance and securing your systems effectively. So whether you're a defense contractor aiming to win more contracts or simply someone interested in bolstering your cybersecurity knowledge, you're in the right place. Party Rock is in the house tonight. We're joined once again today by Mike Frieder, President of On-Call Compliance Solutions and a CMMC Professional Assessor. Thanks for joining us, Mike.
Hey, always a pleasure.
So, Mike, that control, when I started reading it, I was not prepared for how long it was going to be. But this week, we're starting a new Control Family 6, which is all about incident response. This first control is about establishing an incident response plan and all that comes along with it. And as we read in the intro, it's a lot of stuff. So, why is this control important?
Well, sorry, I can't get that Party Rock song out of my head.
So
That's
nothing like a 2011 throwback to get this thing started.
oh man. That was such a good song too. Like Kia did a great job. I forget who was it, the Chainsmokers? I can't remember who
No,
created
it was LMFAO,
That's right.
which was weird because they were uncle and nephew. And if you
Oh, I
really
didn't
think
know
about that song, it's like that's super awkward.
that.
Anyway, why is this control important?
Yeah, I feel like LMFAO is pretty awkward, so cool. Incident response, speaking of pretty awkward. No, so incident response is it really speaks to the idea of it's almost like the essence of NIST SP 800-171. The idea of all of this is to be prepared. That's really what this is, right? It's going from reactive to proactive. It's being prepared when bad things happen because they do. And incident response is something that is so misunderstood and underutilized, really at all levels of company, whether you're a one-person business or whether you're a 20,000 person business. Um, and 361 is where it all begins, right? Establish an operational incident handling capability for organizational systems that includes preparation, detection, analysis, containment, recovery, and user response activities. Let's break it apart for a second. So, establishing an operational, that's how you're going to operate, incident handling, how are you going to handle when bad things happen, capability, so you need an ability, a capability, that when something happens to organizational systems, you know how you're going to handle that incident. As my good friends in the Marines would like to, often say, the worst time to figure out what to do and make a plan for war is when the bullets are already flying over your head. It's a bad time to figure out what your plan is. And so at the very least, you need a plan A, right? And that's what 3.6.1 is really all about. You need to know who's involved in handling incidents. You need to sort of imagine what kind of incidents you might go through. You got to have procedures ready to go for when the worst happens. And you got to know who to contact, whether it be internal, external authorities, do you need to contact the DoD if CUI was involved? And for some reason, a lot of companies will develop an incident response plan at some point in their history and then just like never go back to it for like 5 or 10 years, which has always blown my mind because companies evolve really, really quickly. As a matter of fact, actually, Roman and I were talking just before this podcast about, on-call, and on-call is going through some pretty major changes. I mean, we're just hiring people nonstop and we're growing all the time. And, we've got operational changes going on. We look back at our incident response plan at least twice a year. I mean, minimum twice a year. And that's just to keep up, and we're always behind on something. So I will share that this is one of those things that you can look at on your first pass of going through NIST SP 800-171 Revision 2, and you can kind of go, all right, I'll write a document for it. But the actual reality is that when the worst does happen, if you don't have a plan, you're beyond, I mean, you're beyond screwed. I mean, it's like there's no other way to really put it. If you don't know who to call, who to go to, what to do, what are the procedures, all that kind of stuff, and if you haven't practiced that with your team, then when the worst does happen, you're not going to know what to do, and absolute havoc will ensue. You don't need havoc when when the worst things happen. You need calm, coordinated response. And that is the difference from this bad thing happened. Now, is it a freak out moment or is it a smooth operation? This is how we're handling it. These are the systems we're shutting down. This is what we're unplugging. This is what we're doing. These are who we're contacting. Here are the managers involved. We're going to call the FBI. We're going to call, DCSA. We're going to call whoever it is we're going to call. Those things need to be pre-coordinated and preordained, if you will. We need to have that. So again, if you want to walk into the office one day and randomly start firefighting, with your job on the line, don't have one of these. It's uh, nobody needs that level of stress. And the way to reduce that stress is to have this operational incident handling capability. We call it an incident response plan. That's really what this is. And the great thing is the control is telling you what you have to have in here, right? It's saying it includes preparation. How do you prepare? How do you detect these issues? How do you analyze them? Containment. How do you contain the issue? Recovery and user response activities. How are you going to respond to this? So yeah, Roman, that's hopefully that kind of helps clarify a little bit. But again, it's right there with some of these previous controls from Control Family 5 that we were going on. It is getting out in front of issues before they happen. It's what this is really all about, and knowing how you're going to react to it in advance. And having a plan that you evolve over time and improve so that you as a company can get better at these things.
To piggyback off your bullets flying overhead an analogy, or it's like what Mike Tyson says. He says everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
That is, I mean, yeah, that I love that analogy. I use that analogy from time to time. Again, the Marines have their own version of it with bullets flying over the head, but Mike Tyson's got a really, really great one. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the
Uh,
face.
and talking about being punched in the face, what are the key assessment points an assessor would look for on this one?
Yeah, this is a big control room, and it's not a onesie twosie. Um,
There's
so
48 control points. No.
no, it's not that bad. But the first one is determine if an operational incident handling capability is established. Do we have the capability of actually responding when an incident happens, or is everybody gonna walk out the door, throw their hands up the air, and just give up? It seems silly, but look, you have to prove this to an assessor. How do you solve it? Well, the answer really is the same for all these points. So I'll kind of detail it out, but you need an incident response policy, and you need probably an incident response form as well, so that you've got exactly the information you're going to take in, and you probably also need an incident response procedures, right? How are you going to respond to this? Those are really our big core three on incident response is, the policy, how are we going to operate? The incident response form, how are we going to document? And then the incident response procedures, how are we going to act? That's the big core documentation set for this control. So the first one is an operational incident handling capability is established. Who's getting contacted? Who are we going to? Who's going to handle it? The next one is determine if the operational incident handling capability includes preparation. And, again, the answer is how are we preparing for dealing with incidents? And again, this should all be documented inside your incident response policy so that everybody knows how to prepare for handling an incident. Who do we call? What tools do we need to have at the ready?
Ghostbusters.
That's right. Exactly, right? Like when the Ghostbusters, it's like firefighters, right? In Ghostbusters, when they go to the report that there's a ghost spotted, what are they doing? They're throwing what's the catcher thing called? I forget.
The shoot. I know for some reason I can only think of the
Ah,
of the car, the Ecto 88. But
Yeah, let's see if we can stump Roman on his Ghostbuster trivia.
no, you no. As soon as you said it, I was like, well, dang it,
All right, I have the answer, but now I'm gonna see.
the proton pack
I think it's called
is
the Ghost Catcher.
that too. That
No,
too.
the proton
That
pack's the gun they use to like freeze the ghost so they can throw the ghost trap under him.
that's true.
All right. No,
I've
the
only
point
seen
is, Jack,
Ghostbusters a couple of times, and it's been a while.
it has been definitely probably like 20, 30 years for me. Let's see here. Determined operational incident handling capability includes preparations. Got to prepare. Got to throw the ghost trap in the car. Got to make sure Ecto 88 is ready to roll. It's got some gas in it.
Got that.
Determine if the operational incident handling capability includes detection, right? So we've got to be able to detect the ghosts. I love how this just became a Ghostbuster analogy. Uh,
Sure.
so yeah, determine if the operational incident handling capability includes detection. In other words, do we have something in our incident response capability that includes detection, like a seam tool, right? To detect that there may be an incident happening, right? So as an example, we want to be alerted if there are excessive failed logins from our from our from our environment. Next up is determine if operational incident handling capability includes analysis. So are we looking at our alerts that come in from our SIEM system? That might be an example. And determine if the operational incident handling capability includes containment. Again, do we have our ghost catcher that we brought with us? Do we have an ability to isolate or shut down systems that again, will be there to save us should there be a problem? And determine if the operational incident handling capability includes recovery. Do we have an ability to remediate the problem, unisolate the workstation, that kind of thing? Again, that's all got to be in the response handling guide there. And then finally, determine if the operational incident handling capability includes user response activities. In other words, are we detailing out what are the activities at step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that users should be doing to respond to an incident? And so if we have all of that in our incident response policy, generally speaking, we should be meeting the requirements under this control. Again, you may need an incident response form as supplementary evidence. You may need incident response procedures as supplementary stuff. But generally speaking, we just need to make sure that these items, A through G, are elements that have been described within our incident response plan.
And by the way, Mike, I would advise you to enjoy it because that may be the only time that you have the answer to a movie question before me. Um,
Definitely not my normal.
no, I was actually surprised about all of that. So what are the potential difficulties that may arise when enacting this one in an organization?
Great question. So if I'm thinking about it, number one thing I see out in the field is we often see companies that have really, really old incident response plans from something they had to do 5 to 10 years ago, and they just haven't updated them. So take this podcast as a cue, break out your incident response plans, and hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and update them. Another thing is incident response plans that don't have enough detail. So you've got to have the people that are involved in incident response, at least by position title. You may not have to put individual people's names, but position title certainly. And you need to have those names along with contact information in your incident response plan. To make it believable, you got to be able to actually contact these people. So there's that. Um, you got to train people on the operational incident handling capability. So you've got to be able to prove to an assessor that you have it and that you've actually sent it out, have people sign off that they know about it, that they've seen it, have a copy of it, etc. You just got to do these things. So implementation is definitely something I think is a challenge. Why? Because you don't think about it every day. Well, we want to convert you into someone who is thinking about it at least at a minimum quarterly, so that we can really, dive in and get these things worked out, get them to the point where they're understood and that there is a good understanding of how you're going to deal with it when Mike Tyson comes and punches you in the face. Again, you got to have a plan. The plan can maybe have a little bit of a hiccup getting jump started, right? The punch in the face. But then you got to get back up and you gotta execute the plan, if you're going to survive. So again, that's I think really it's lack of documentation. It is old deprecated documentation that really just is not applicable anymore. And then yeah, what else? Those are the two things. You don't have it at all, or what you have is so old it just obviously doesn't even apply anymore. So we encourage people to go back through incident response about once a year, as far as revising it and certainly reviewing it once a quarter to do interval updates on that.
I think when it comes to Mike Tyson, I think I would just play dead to avoid the risk of getting punched in the face a second time. But there's also, to bring it back to movies, and a fact that I may know that you do not, to even the score, is
Uh,
there's an old story on the Rocky movies, that the newcomers to each movie, like if you were playing a boxer that was not in the previous movie, your initiation was to get knocked out.
really?
And there's actually video of Michael B. Jordan getting knocked out when he showed up to take over it and start the Creed franchise. There's video of him getting knocked out flat.
Wow.
And so wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of that. Uh,
Well, I tell you what, if I'm a famous actor, I probably don't want any CTE, so I don't know if I'm taking a knockout.
and I wish that I had foreseen that this would turn into Ghostbusters the podcast, because then I would have done a different silly question, but I like this one, so we're going to go with it. Um, Whenever I hear the term incident response, I think about, those chalkboards or those whiteboards that are on the wall at most warehouses that say like days without incident, and
Yeah.
you update the number. So if you were to keep a physical copy of your incident response plan in a filing cabinet in your office, would you keep one of those days without incident signs on the wall next to it?
I guess the answer is no, because you'd want the days without incident sign to be publicly posted somewhere in the secure facility, and so it wouldn't be next to a filing cabinet, I wouldn't think. But then again, you wouldn't post the incident response policy in a filing cabinet either. You'd probably want that to be something that people can find and get a hold of. So, very interesting question. And yeah,
So
what I
your
would
answer
probably
is basically both no and yes.
no and yes, I'll go with that. Sure.
Is Yeah, I know that's what I'm getting out of that. And that wraps up another episode of Ghostbusters, the podcast. No, I'm kidding. That wraps up another episode of Mission Compliance. We hope our discussion today has provided you with valuable insights, practical strategies, and inspiration and to navigate the ever-evolving world of defense. We'd like to thank Mike for joining us and talking about the very important topic of incident response. Thanks, Mike.
Hey, absolutely, Roman. Always a pleasure.
You'd think after 113 episodes of reading this outro, I wouldn't stumble on it, but here we are. Uh, but the conversation doesn't end here. We encourage you to continue exploring these topics and connect with us via our social media channels. Share your thoughts, ask questions, and engage with fellow listeners using the hashtag Mission Compliance Podcast. If they haven't already, what should they do, Mike?
Well, they should like, subscribe, and tell a friend who's struggling to get compliant because we can help them.
And if you do tell that friend, we have a referral partner program, so we can help you out. Anyway, that's a plug for a different thing, but we do it all here. You heard him. Don't forget to like or subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform so that you know when new episodes like this one are released. And we'd really appreciate it if you could take a moment to rate and review the show. Your feedback helps us to continue to bring you thought-provoking episodes and high-quality content. Join us next time as we delve further into the dynamic world of defense, security, and industry innovation. Until then, take care, stay informed, and make compliance your mission. See you next time.
Thanks, everybody.